Hello, Hugh. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming on to do this interview. How are you?
I'm brilliant, man. Thank you for asking. Fantastic.
Awesome. So, the reason I've invited you on for this is because I saw in the Wins channel you posted over the last 4 months, you've made 10K. Was it pounds?
Yeah,
I don't
sterling.
want to misquote. Okay, great. So, congratulations. I'd like to go into that a bit later on. For now, I'd like to hear your backstory. So, what was your life like before joining the real world?
Life was life was good. Life is what it is. Like it's good, right? It is what you make it essentially, but it can always be better, right? So I was like standard 18, 19-year old, just got out of school, didn't want to go to university, but like semi kind of being pressured into it. Like, the standard kind of route in the UK is you go to school, you get your A levels, then you head off to university because it's the promised land and it's where dreams are made and all that. But I decided not to do that. I decided I'm going to take a gap year, which is something people in the UK do. Some people, they just don't go to university for a year and they try things. So I was training a lot of martial arts, a lot of jiu-jitsu, a lot of Muay Thai, and I was also working in a bar. Um, and that was a good experience working in a bar. If you're a young guy and you haven't really had any work experience, I'd recommend that. But after about 5, 6 months of working in a bar, I came across um, the real world and just thought, screw it, jumped in, just completely went full steam ahead with it, just completely single-mindedly, right? I'm gonna make this work, right? And yeah, it's turned out remarkably well.
Okay, so a few things to go into there. First, how did you discover the reward?
I think it was must have been about 5 months into the bar. I think I'd heard maybe on a YouTube comment section, someone was talking about, get in here, they're teaching all these kind of wealth creation methods. I can't remember what corner of the internet I was on, but yeah, I looked into it a little bit. Obviously, then got the kind of first exposure to it. And I think I had to come back to it a couple times before I was finally sold on it. But yeah, as I say, just jumped straight in, kind of just whatever happens, happens, and just went straight from there.
Mhm. And now, are you still planning to go back to uni, or is this just going to be your full-time thing now?
No, no. If you look at it logically, why would you? There's absolutely
Mhm.
no point, right? Um, Obviously, like for the first few months of freelancing, it was it was like, oh well, I'll do this, and then if it all falls apart, then I'll have this as a fallback. But then after a few months, it was like, well, why am I holding on to this thing over here, this university, which is it's like a plan B, right? Like, why wouldn't you just go all out on the plan A, like burn the boats, as they say? So I did that, and at this point, it's like it would be a step back. It would be a step in the wrong direction to even consider going down that route, right? Like, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, I guess it's different, but for me, definitely no. This is the right choices straight ahead.
Mhm. And could you give a breakdown of the 10K you've earned?
So
What
it's
went into
been
that?
yeah, it's been through a couple of different projects. Obviously, in the start, like when you have no experience and when you're honing your craft, as they say, we tend to charge less and get more kind of experience and exposure to what you're actually doing, right? And honing your craft and getting better at it so you can charge more, right? And that's a lot. Like all of that stuff is covered in extreme detail in the real world at this point. It's insane like how much value you will actually get from going in there and getting that screening process. But the first few months, it was odd jobs here and there, right? Not that massive figures coming out, but I could see progress, right? And I just kept going. In terms of like practicals, the things I've made money doing would be sales pages, landing pages, marketing emails, like marketing sequences. So we're talking welcome sequences, buying sequences, Then you've got retainers on top of that. If you get a client, you do some work with them. The ideal scenario is that you then go into a long-term working relationship with them, right? And again, this entire process is literally just handed to you on a silver platter. If you just have the desire to kind of learn. But yeah, that's a very practical basis of what I do day to day with clients.
Why did you choose, in this case, copywriting and freelancing out of everything else you could have chosen?
Well, I was always very good with writing. I was always more of a literary person than a mathematical person. As you can see, books behind me, I've always been a reader. Um, but I don't necessarily think that's a prerequisite for copywriting. I think it probably helps. But it was the first thing that kind of popped out. I had no idea what it was. I didn't even know it existed, to be honest. Um, but yeah, I jumped in. It was the first thing that popped out. It was the option of if you have a lot of time, which I had a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of money for investments in cryptocurrency and all these other things you can start up with like external funds. So I didn't have that the kind of large cash flow that I have going now, which you can put into other assets, right? I was kind of starting from ground zero, right? Working in a bar, minimum wage, you know, eating out of like Lidl, stuff like that. Lidl's still good. I still eat out of Lidl. But yeah, cash per time rich. That was the quadrant that I was assigned. And that from there you can just hit the ground running from copywriting.
What were your biggest challenges when you first started copywriting?
Biggest challenges, not not what you might think. For me, it wasn't for the copywriting that was actually a challenge. I find that like the way it's taught inside there, it's like it's hard to feel. I would put it that way, because you have a world class expert as your teacher. Literally every step of the way, he is giving you insight into his just toolbox of mastery, right? So that part was kind of covered. The parts I'd never had experience with was daily scheduling, right? Like how do you go from the mindset of I come in at 12, I clock out at 5, to going into, okay, I am responsible for you know, every value transaction that happens in this business. I'm responsible for whether we sink or swim. So I guess it was going into that mindset of, okay, I'm now a professional, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a service provider. Um, Molding together all three of those personalities of the entrepreneur, the technician, the businessman, all those people. But again, like inside the the programs, there's a lot of stuff where you can develop that. It's all kind of there for you.
Would you say it's something that a non-native English speaker could do as well?
If you're prepared to put the time in, as with anything, right? It's like if you want to get good at anything, you're going to need time. It's never going to be quick or easy. I think anybody listening to this interview understands that already, that it's if you want anything worthwhile in life, you have to put the effort in, you have to put the time in, because that's why it's worth it, right? But yeah, if English isn't your first language and you're prepared to do what it takes to turn that weakness into a strength, then yeah, I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's an issue unless you make it an issue. So yeah, I know a lot of guys in the network who have done extremely well, and English is not their first language. So
What about age? Could a 13 or 14-year-old do it, do you think?
yeah, there was always this kind of debate in the early days. I think it's like I'm 13. I don't think I can do it. And the answer to that was always, well, are you professional? Can you get the job done? Right? Can you solve the problem? Because like I'm a young guy. I'm 19. So when I've hopped on a sales call with a client, in my case, it has never once come up about my age. And if it ever did come up, it was always like, wow, that's impressive. Like, how old are you again? And it's like, it's an
Mhm.
impressive thing because it's quite rare, right? If you get on a call with someone who's 13, 14, and they're a genuinely competent individual and they're very, very good at what they do, you're going to want to work with that person because there's a reason they're on the call. It's because they're good at what they do, right? Um, yeah, I don't think it's an issue. If anything, like the last one, I think use your weakness as your biggest advantage. If you're young, then it's an opportunity to separate yourself from the pack because they've never seen anything like you. Like in my case, it's actually extremely helpful when I get on a call and someone might say, "Oh, you're quite young." I say, "Yes, of course I'm young. I chose not to go to university. I'm too smart for that. That's why I'm here with you. I'm going to make you more money." Like, yeah, use it to your advantage. It's a problem if you think it is, but it's not. I'm telling you, it's not.
Now, on a personal side, how did the community help you with, yeah, how did being in the real world, being surrounded by other like-minded people, how did that impact you?
Yeah, it was cool. It's something you don't really get anywhere else because, like, if you go to an MMA gym, there's killers in there and they're really nice people, but maybe they don't have their finances in check, right? And maybe you can't talk about the same issues that you want to talk about, right? Um, Same with like people in school, they might be really good friends, but they don't want to talk about how you can upsell your client on a new offer, right, and make another 2 grand a month. Um, and that's the thing about the chats. It was like I remember thinking a couple of months ago, like every single issue that I have had, like literally every single issue that I had going through these like troubles, every single tiny situation about should I do this in a sales call? I have this situation with a client. I guarantee you, every single issue that I put into the chat, if I tagged like another apprentice or a guy who I had known or a guy who I know had this other situation, 99% of the time, if I tagged them in that chat, the issue would go away because I had an instant answer from someone who had been there before, right? And it was like that was the secret kind of superpower. That was an insane amount of value just to connect with those people who had the answers. It was like a huge encyclopedia of people who had been in all of these different business situations. It's like, hey, this the close to my sales page isn't quite reading right. I know you just did one. Would you mind having a check over it? It's like, bang, issue solved, over deliver for the client. Yeah, the chat was crazy, man. And on a like a very personal note, you don't get that anywhere else in terms of like connecting with people who share the same mindset as you. It's crazy, and it's very powerful as well because it can really power you through. If you think like we're all in this kind of movement together to make more than what we are, to kind of move forward in life. And you see that every single day in the chats. He's posting a win, he's posting a win, he overcame this obstacle, he posted a win. It's powerful stuff. It's cool.
Did you look at the wins channel often? Maybe when starting out, or maybe you still do? And how did that impact you?
Yeah. Yeah. When I started out, um, it was crazy. Because like when you came in, it was still kind of like, oh, okay, is this really gonna work for me? And I checked the wins channel and it was literally insane. Like it was crazy. I was like, how is this real? How have I never seen this before? Um, and it pushed you, really, really gave you drive. It was like, damn, this guy's just made 5K like in a month. Like that is absolutely insane. And if one person can do it, then you can do it. Like the excuses are now out the window because this guy did it. And so this guy. And for the rest of the day, like 7 more wins have just come in. And they've all topped anything that you've got. And it's hard to not succeed when you have that there because it's a constant reminder that it's possible, right? Which is one of the biggest things that can hold you back is believing that it's not possible. Like it's right there, it's in front of your eyes. Of course, it's possible. So yeah, that was a big motivator. I think as long as you can look at it as a positive, which I think is the only way you should look at it, is look, these people are winning. I can win as well if I just get on the path, get on track. So
Mhm.
yeah, um, yeah, definitely looked at it a lot.
What would you say are the top three biggest lessons you've learned from being in the real world?
A broad question. Top three biggest lessons. I would say number one, professionalism is very rare. There are not a lot of professionals out there, genuine, competent professionals. Like they're rare. There's not many people out there who are genuine professionals. certainly from my experience in dealing with clients, it is like you go that little bit above. You go that little bit above what they've seen before. You are that professional, and it's like their mind is blown. It's like they've never seen anything like this before. If I throw in an extra email in my weekly retainer, or I had an example of this the other month on a sales page. Um, this is kind of what I mean. These are the kind of nuances and the things you'll learn if you decide to step into the program. It's like I had a sales page and it was pretty kind of low ticket, right? So not like staggering numbers. But the way I worked on that page, I worked on it like it was a 25K project. And when the client got it, like mind blowing. And the testimonial that I received from that job was absolutely crazy. And it's just helped me actually acquire a new client who has more than 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Like that's part of the chain that you can start when you start acting like a professional. And the only way you can learn that is by seeing other people do it. People like Arno, people like Andrew from Copywriting. Arno was a big inspiration in terms of that, like professionalism that you carry yourself, because you've never seen it before, right? And I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but like you've never seen that before. You've never seen a man like that actually telling you these things. You've been told, okay, take your essay out, write it in silence, give it to the teacher, go home, do your homework, do all this stuff. You've never learned about building rapport, all of the little things that we talk about, and is like the mark of an expert, a professional, like an expert in your field. All of these things, which was like an awesome experience to kind of jump into, and then even look back on myself, like because when I started, obviously you don't know any of this stuff, but if you have that kind of desire to learn, you get very good at it and you get good quick the way it's laid out to you, right? Because you don't have to go through the same experiences that they had to, the same failures, right? You can just skip all of it and go straight to the top. But it's been cool to see that kind of transition in myself in sales calls and dealing with clients. So yeah, be a professional, because not many people are. Your competition is pretty pathetic, to be honest, in this day and age. Number two, probably be trust the process, probably, because like the process is there. I've been dealing with this in terms of my own kind of schedule recently and how I kind of structure my activities. It's like just trust the process. It doesn't really matter what noise you have going on up here, what doubts you have going on, because the process is in front of you. It is proved that it works. All you have to do is execute on it, right? And you're given that process. You're literally given that process. You don't have to think about it. It's like step one, step two, step three. You can add in a little bit of flair. You can do your own thing, but the manual for success is right in front of you. All you have to do is follow it. Try not to let the noises in your head influence you too much. Just stay positive. Number three would probably be on a very realistic level. Nothing worthwhile changes overnight on a very realistic level. I think that's something that is important to understand. Like things can change fast. Your situation can change a lot faster than you think. Like I said, like in that wins channel, you'll see guys who are in there in the first month and they're making crazy numbers, right? And in my case, I used that to inspire rather than demotivate. I was looking at it and thinking, wow, these guys are doing well. I want to do well too, right? That was the way I looked at it. I think accepting that if you're trying to make a big change in your life, a big positive change, there's a reason why 99% of people aren't doing it, is because it's going to take some level of dedication and skill, but it's a valuable thing. So if you're willing to get the golden goodie at the end, then be willing to go through the process to get it. And in this case, as I said, the process is right in front of you by like an expert in your field who's teaching you exactly what you need to do to become like just insanely good at freelancing.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about getting the chain started, getting your 1 million subscriber client. So now that all of that is rolling, where do you see yourself in 6 months to 1 year?
I ask myself that a lot, to be honest. On a wide scale, I think there's one word is always popping out in my head. It's just big. It's big. Like it's I can't explain and we're going kind of very deep here, but on a very personal level, I have this like it's hard for me to sleep at night, we'll put it like that, in a very good way. It's become very difficult to sleep because I never thought that I would be in this position where I can literally think about moving countries in the next month, going and renting an apartment for a month in Bulgaria or somewhere like that and just traveling, right? Like that was never meant to be part of the plan, right? The plan was you go to university, you kick about the place you've been born for, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, you stack up all this debt, and then you might find a job, luckily, if you're lucky, if the recession doesn't put you on benefits, right? Like it's hard for me to sleep because there's thousands of contingency plans going around my head of what I could possibly do because of the skill set that I now have. Like there's really no upper limit to it. It's yeah, I can't sleep.
Mhm.
If that makes sense. In a very good way. I can't sleep.
So it sounds like it's giving you a purpose.
Purpose. Yeah, I guess you could say that. A pathway to a purpose. I don't think it is the purpose. I think it's a facilitator of it. Um, but also you could argue that if you're an expert in your field, you're a professional, and you have something that you work towards every day, then yeah, I think that's your work purpose as a man. Because I've certainly learned that it's very, very beneficial for your health to be in a flow state for most of your day. You just feel awesome in a flow state. Like when I'm writing a sales page, that's when I'm at my happiest and everything is dialed in terms of the schedule. Like when you're tackling a really hard project, I'm super excited for this month because I think I have two major projects that I'm working on. And I know as soon as I get in that flow, in that rhythm of those projects, like the whole day is going to be timetabled. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to be in that flow state and it just feels awesome. So yeah, I guess you could say it's a purpose. It's cool is what it is. It's awesome.
Mhm. It sounds like you give all your available time to this. Has it been that way since you joined, or were you putting in
Yeah.
less time at first?
As soon as I like as I said, when I went in, like I went like level 10, like hard. Like every single hour. Like my life became copywriting. And that allowed me to get a lot of stuff done very fast. Um, but I'm always in kind of two minds when I'm speaking to younger guys about this. The way I did it was spend 4 months going completely crazy, going insane, neglect everything else, just focus on copywriting, get up to a certain level, and then start bringing things down again. Um, that can work. That's a strategy. That's kind of what I did. But at this stage now, there's other things in life that will help you to actually become better at what you do, right? Like we're talking about martial arts, we're talking about fitness, we're talking about mental health, reading, all these kinds of things. Um, and I think it's a balance game, right? Because we're back to working for yourself, which is challenging because there's a lot of things that come up, and you're in charge, right? Which is cool. I like to be in charge, but yeah, I think there's a balance thing there as well. But like I just said, I'm happiest when I'm working, so I try to work a lot. Um, and like over Christmas, this is actually a fun example. Over Christmas, for the past like week, I haven't really been working because my income is set up in a way that I can do maybe 3 hours of work, no less than that, maybe an hour of work a week, hour and a half tops, and that's my income for the week done. If I want to take it up, I do more, but that's the base level. So like on a Sunday, I can get that done, and then I've had the whole week off just to enjoy Christmas with family, right? Christmas Day was fun. Boxing Day was fun. Christmas Eve was fun. The next few days after that, the last 3 or 4 days, when I haven't been working, have just been bad. They've been like boring. And it's like, well, where's the struggle? Where's the challenge? Yeah, I like to work. I love to work. Working's fun. So yeah, I work a lot. I think if you want to get good at something, you have to do it a lot.
Mhm. And is that a mindset shift you had after joining the real world, or were you like that before?
I think it helped facilitate it, definitely. It's hard not to it's hard not to have that mindset shift of work, be a professional, get stuff done, get paid when you're in here, right? It's because everybody else is it's the living and breathing ethos of the place, right?
Mhm.
Like I was always hardworking, I was always dedicated. If I set my mind to something, I knew I could do it, right? Um, but in terms of copywriting, like there were times because you have to get clients, you're gonna get like you're gonna get rejected, like you're gonna go through some difficulties. But you gotta know that the end goal is so much more just it's so much more worth it than you think. Like I can remember the points where I was feeling like, oh, I'm not sure if this is gonna work out. I don't know if I can keep going. If you're watching this now and you're in that situation, just keep going. Like literally just get the blinders on and keep going because it's that mindset that's gonna save you. It's that mindset that's gonna keep you going so you can get to the point where you can do an hour of work a week and you can have your schedule sorted out and you can do whatever you want to do. Like most of the time now, if I'm not if I'm not writing, if I'm not I don't even do outreach anymore. I've outsourced that to someone else, given like the resources that I have. Like if I'm not working, if I'm not telling other people what to do, I'm training because that's what I like to do. I like to do MMA. I like to do like lots of other things that don't involve writing, and I can actually do that now. I was thinking about this today, and I'm talking so much. Like I'm
All
sorry.
good. This is great.
I was I was out today actually, and I thought like I have kind of bought freedom on a very small scale, or I've earned freedom on a very small scale because we're if you're competing with other people, other names here, like I'm still a very small fish, but compared to where I was, compared to working in a bar and having that minimum wage kind of label where every hour is the same and you can only work up to a certain threshold, um, like there's no freedom there, right? And it just hit me today. It was like I have actually worked my way to some sort of semblance of not financial freedom, but a hell of a lot more free than I was, right? Because I had the freedom to go about my day, do whatever I wanted, talk to whoever I wanted, you know, go wherever I wanted, and not have to be in one location working a job I hated that didn't fulfill me, that didn't challenge me, that made me feel awful when I left. Like I'm sure you can imagine bar work is not the easiest. Like dealing with a lot of alcoholics all day. It's not
Mhm.
fun. Especially when you don't drink, which I didn't. Um, so yeah, I had that kind of realization. It was wow, it's been like 9 months and I never thought I would get here. I thought I would make, you know, some money, it'd be cool, and then I would move on to something else. But it's like, yeah, I've reached this point where it's unbelievable. Like I never planned for this, which is why I'm telling you I can't sleep because I'm thinking of all these things that I can now start to think
Mhm.
about. So yeah.
And that's a very common thing, yeah, with me as well. I look back at myself 6 months ago, and it's a completely different person to who I am now. And it's thanks to the reward.
Yeah. I think there's another layer that people don't see. Aside from I think I heard it once months and months ago. It was even if let's say and you join for 3 months and you make zero money, you have still like that to me, you might not understand this unless you're in it, but as soon as you're in it, you will understand exactly what I mean. It's like you will get more value than you could ever imagine for the amount of money that you will pay. It was like if you spent 3 months in there, you're changed forever. It's like coming in at ground zero, even coming in with experience. I know a lot of guys who came in with experience, and it was like I'm like I describe things for a living, and I'm having a hard time describing things. Like it is insane. Just picture a kind of entrepreneurship Valhalla, right? That's what I would describe it as, right? It's insane. Spend 3 months there and tell me your life's not better.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to end it there. I know you're a busy
Cool.
man. We're reaching the
Yeah.
time
Awesome.
limit. So thank you for coming on. And I
Awesome.
do
Sweet.
wish you all the best. And till next time, Hugh.
Hey, man. Awesome.